This is a Kashgari ribab. Comes from the oasis town of Kashgar, which is in eastern Turkmenistan, which is nowadays called Xinjiang because it's kind of been taken over by China. But its original name was Eastern Turkmenistan. And it's a really resonant instrument. I'm not going to go on too much about it. It's kind of a bit like a banjo in that it's got a skin front, python skin, and it's got two strings that you play the melody on, and then it's got drone strings which are resonators, so that when you kind of play it they resonate and vibrate, so you get that amazing kind of rich sound. So I about 50 years ago, thereabouts, when I was a teenager, I fell in love with kind of early music, as it was back then. David Munro and people like that. And the BBC started doing kind of period music with Tudor dramas. And I thought it was great. So, I really enjoyed that, but didn't know much about it as a teenager, obviously. And then about 40 years ago, I kind of found troubadour music. Troubadours are southwestern France, from about sort of 1050 to about 1300. Musicians, poets, mostly aristocracy. You had earls and dukes and even kings. Not always, some of them were peasants. And so anyway, I really liked the idea of the medieval instruments, but back 40 years ago there weren't that many people making them, and it was kind of a beginning field. People were just starting to explore medieval music, and it was very fresh and new, and there weren't many performers around, and there wasn't a lot of knowledge around, and a lot of performers were playing Arabic instruments, because a lot of the Arabic instruments hadn't changed much. And so I kind of got interested in weird musical instruments, which is why over the last 30 years or so I've built a kind of collection of them, and I've got probably way too many now. I've got about 80, nearly 90 instruments. Some of them are copies of proper medieval instruments. Quite a few of them are guitars. But I've got a lot of these kind of weird things. And I've just finished recording a new album of kind of rock, for want of a better way of putting it, music, full-on kind of music. It's taken me 3.5 years to record it. And there's a lot of electric guitar and whatever on it. And I was doing daily practice the other day, and my spirits kind of suggested that I do a more domestic kind of on-the-rug recording, using some of these weird instruments. So that's what I've been doing. This is my house. I'm not in my recording studio. I'm doing a really simple kind of meditative, that's what I'm aiming for at least, kind of quality, playing some of these, they're called long-necked lutes, and there's a whole load of different ones all over Central Asia. So I've been kind of playing some of these long-neck lutes, maybe adding a bit of percussion now and again, and just kind of doing something very simple, and sort of it's an antidote to the 3.5 years that I've spent doing very complicated, very elaborate recording. I mean, some of the pieces on the new album have got 80 instruments, 80 instruments. So it's mixing it has been like conducting an orchestra. You're kind of bringing the volume up from each of these sort of instruments, and it's quite a game. Trying to kind of put them in the right space in the stereo and whatever. So I'm doing something really simple here. I'm just working with two microphones because that gives me the stereo, and I've got a really old Apple Mac laptop, second hand off eBay, very little money, very easy to use. I'm running a very old version of the operating system on it. I'm running a very old version of a program called Logic Pro, which is my recording studio program on it, and I'm using fairly low-fi microphones. Really, this one is the better of the two. I bought that one about 15 years ago, and I paid about £100 for it, so it's better. This one I bought last year off eBay, used, and I think I paid about 15 quid for it. So it's basic, but it works. And they're going through a little mixing desk, which I think you probably can't see because it's on the floor, and that goes into the computer and is being recorded. I love these long-necked instruments. You know, I've got a real passion for the exotic, because I think, I don't know, there's something romantic about the Silk Road, and that's kind of probably white imperialism, but I really like the whole kind of quality of the Silk Road and the instruments of the Silk Road, and Central Asian carpets too. So this is, as I said, this is very much an on the rug recording. I got a lot of sort of Central Asian carpets, and what I'm trying to do, I guess, is to try and capture some of that kind of romantic quality of that place. I remember about 30 odd years ago, my partner and I went to see an exhibition of rugs in a village hall in the Cotswolds. It was a selling exhibition. I mean, you know, they hired the hall and they were trying to sell the rugs, and they were really expensive, and we didn't buy it. Well, I said we didn't buy anything. That's not true. I bought a braided kind of strap, which I've got somewhere, but they had a really battered old instrument which wasn't playable, but I kind of just fell in love with it, you know, in this place full of colourful rugs, lots of red. I like the colour red, so lots of these red rugs, and this wonderful Central Asian battered instrument. I can't remember what it was, some form of lute, and as I say, utterly unplayable, but it kind of haunted me, you know. So that kind of romance of those Silk Road sort of cultures. And so I've collected a lot of Central Asian instruments over the years, and what I'm trying to do is to sort of bring in some of that exotic romanticism. I'm not great on any of these instruments. Don't think of me as any wonderful musician, because I'm really not. And I don't play any of the original tunes that you'd find in some of these faraway places on the Silk Road. I tend to kind of just do noodling, improvised twiddling, and it's just what I'm trying to do. This is for me. I'm doing this film because I was talking with a friend yesterday, and she showed me a film of a Dutch painter, and it was just him in his studio doing kind of little bits to camera, but little bits of kind of an aside, and little bits of him working, and it was so domestic and so honest and kind of real. He wasn't trying to do anything fancy with it. It wasn't like a documentary. It wasn't like a teaching film. It was just him and his process. And over the last few years, recording and sort of sound has become increasingly important for me. And I'm trying to find a balance with that, with my shamanism, because of course I'm known for shamanism, um, and I haven't found the balance yet, but I'm working on that. But the whole idea of sound is just, it's so magical, and amazing things happen in the studio when I'm working, and I'm trying to find an instrument that fits with some of the things that I've already recorded. Then sometimes real magic happens. I call it happy accidents, because it really is. I'm not planning anything. I'll pick up an instrument, I'll play along with what I've already recorded, and somehow it fits in a way I wasn't expecting, and then the whole piece will go off at a different tangent, at a different angle, and that is just mind-blowing. It's extraordinary. So music in shamanism is sort of, it's there sometimes. In Central Asia it's there quite a bit, I suppose, because some of the long neck lutes had shamanic elements to them in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, places like that. Some of the shamans that kind of got taken over by Islam, but it still survives, kind of a bit like some of the pagan traditions in Europe got taken over by Christianity. So you get these kind of elements of shamanism and elements of animism in the it's still there in the culture. And some of the instruments are used. I was reading a thing, doing a little bit of research about an instrument from Baluchistan, which is in Pakistan. It's a bit of Pakistan up by the Afghan and Iranian border, and the healers traditionally work with these long neck lutes, a little bit like this, but kind of bigger, and they don't really play tunes on them. They strum them, and it produces a sort of rhythmic drone that other musicians play over. And they say that if anybody wants to be healed, you need like a doctor or a healer, and you need musicians with these instruments. And the musicians apparently sit around the bed and strum their lutes, and the kind of medicine person, because it's not going to be like Western medicine. It's going to be a folk tradition. It's going to be kind of magical folk healing type stuff. They do their work while the musicians play. So music and shamanism they do kind of go together in a strange way. I'm not saying that anything I do is anything to do with shamanism. My spirits talk to me. They kind of give me ideas maybe for pieces of music and whatever. Things float in during my morning practice each day. But I'm not consciously trying to do anything sort of shamanic or magical or anything with the music. I'm just trying to kind of create a feeling. For me there's something really rich about the whole kind of material culture of beautiful rugs and kind of these exotic instruments. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So maybe I'll play a bit, and I play bum notes. I'm not great, but I have fun. they're kind of drony. I love drones. You know, when I was a kid, I used to like. Well, I lived in a house once in a town when I was a little kid, and we had a carnival procession go past the house, and the bagpipe bands. I'd kind of lean out the window and just soak in the drones. You know, drones are magic. And they're so important in medieval music, and they're so important in this Central Asian music. And it's just, there's something trancey, something really trancey about working with drones. So it's a big kind of feature. I enjoy them very much. So, having got the idea from that Dutch painter to do kind of loose video blogs, maybe, I don't know how they're going to develop. I mean, this is the first one I've done. If I like it, when I've edited it, I'll post it, and if I don't, I won't. So if you never see this, it's because it never happened. And if you do see it, it's because I kind of thought, well, maybe it was okay. Maybe I'll do more. I don't know. Maybe I'll go and work in my studio and talk about some of the processes that I do and some of the instruments that I've got. And I don't know where it'll go. But for now, I think that'll probably do. There you go.